All right, welcome to second session of Rang, हमारा एक art festival that's happening. Today's session is today's 8 June. आज का session Shubham is conducting and he's a concept artist और वो Academy of Art University में पढ़ा है, which is in San Francisco, California में. And he has won a lot of awards in terms of Rookies Award, जैसे मैं अभी mention किया था. So he will be conducting the session today. I'll be moderating the stuff. अगर आपको in between, if you have any doubts or if you have, you can direct it to me in the chat, and then we'll go forward. So Shubham, take it away.
All right. So what's up, guys? How's everybody doing? A little brief about myself. I'm Shubham Lakhotia, and I'm a concept artist from Pune. I'm born and brought up in Pune, and I'm currently, since the last 1 year, I'm in San Francisco. And actually, right now, I was supposed to be in LA for a scholarship that I won at Brainstorm School. I was going to learn under this, but everything became online because of COVID. So I'm here, and I'm very excited for you guys. Like, prepared this little brief talk for everybody who's sort of like entering the industry and sort of wanting to learn about everything. So I would encourage Ajinkya sir. I would want to ask whatever questions you feel like anybody wants to interrupt or ask me anything. Just feel free, and I'll be ready to answer.
Right. Shubham, just one thing. Do we start the Instagram live as well? अभी कर देते हैं ना? जैसा discuss हुआ था कल?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that.
All right. I'll start from here. आप वहाँ से join कर लो. Yeah.
I hope everybody has their cup of tea, because I'm gonna take like an hour for this.
That's the protocol. I think I'm live now. You can see.
All right.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. You need to send me the request to be in the video.
All right. So
yeah, I got it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Am I live?
We are live.
All right.
Waiting for Shubham Lakhotia. Okay. All right. Chalo, we are good to go.
All right. Awesome. Good to go. I think I can hear some disturbance.
Wait.
So yeah, a little brief about me, guys. So I used to graphic design a lot before, and I'm also an engineer. And but then I'm not really proud of it. So I'm a concept artist today, but we'll get on to the whole story in a while. So I'm going to be sharing my screen with everybody right now on Zoom, and on Instagram. Everybody, I request you guys to attend the Zoom call so that you can have the whole experience of everything. All right. So let me know if you can see my screen.
For your screen, I need to go.
Yes, we can see.
Yes, we can see.
Awesome, perfect. So, concept art for films and games. Now, concept art is basically an industry which is sort of not very known in India yet. Very few people know it, and the ones that do are sort of like in industry or really like learning through whatever ways they can. And in today's topic, I'm going to cover about what it is to work in movies and games, and a little bit about the industry and how things are going to function. So, all right. So this was me when I was sort of like lost and trying to figure out how I should get into this, or what am I doing with my life, doing graphic design and stuff. So this was, I think, 2 years ago when Spider-Man Homecoming was launched, and I was in the theaters and I was like struck by the movie. I was like, damn, how could they create such stuff? So the whole movie, I sat alone in the theater till the end of the credits, and I would just keep noticing everybody's names. And all right, there are these many Indians and so many studios that are from India and here and there and everything. I was just trying to get some info about this because I wanted to make the switch from my existing field to something else, which happened to be visual effects and film. Another movie, Doctor Strange, which I was like quite inspired by. I think you guys must have seen it, and the effects in this was like insane. It was crazy. So a little bit of embarrassing stuff before I start. These were my sketches, and right, I think I can hear my own voice. Is
Yeah.
is there some disturbance?
तुम्हारा इसका वॉइस तुम्हें कम करना पड़ेगा.
Just a second. All right. All right, perfect. So, all right, so I'm audible, right?
Yes.
So yeah, these two were a little bit like some movies that inspired me to get into this industry and to even know that okay, there is a field that exists that does something like this. And for everybody who's into say doing different things over here, say they're into architecture, or you might be in your first year, second year of something, or maybe just looking for some industries to tap into. I think like the visual effects and film industry is one of the most challenging fields to succeed in, but the amount of like recognition you get, and you get your name in the movies and the credits in the movies, so it's that's quite good, I feel. And the work is global, it doesn't just happen in one place. So I would highly recommend you guys to research, do your own research on this stuff, and of course this talk is going to help you out today. So a little about me. I used to sketch a lot during my, I'm from the Bishop School, if you guys know that. And during, like after every exam, I used to draw and I used to sketch a lot behind the exam papers. And at that time, I didn't even know that what the hell is this gonna turn into. But still, I would sort of like, I was quite interested in drawing in general. And but over time I ended up like, I was pretty clear I want to get into design, but I was not really sure what, why and how. And you know, like the social pressure and parents and all of those things come in. So I happened to get into engineering, but and I completed my mechanical engineering, but during that I used to graphic design a lot for a couple of clients, like say Fitato and IIT and stuff. A bit more, you can just check out my LinkedIn for that, but we're not here to talk about that today. So yeah, so graphic design, I used to do that for like I think 2 or 3 years, and then I decided to make the switch after watching these movies. And then yeah, slowly things started unveiling and started unfolding. Now I want to talk a little bit about the film industry and how it functions. So the film industry basically consists of pre-production, production, and post-production. And my work generally comes, and as concept artists, you would be in the pre-production department, where we have to basically visualize the director's vision or the script or the story. And they come up with this idea, say something like Mad Max, right, where everything is in the desert, or something like Underwater, where things are like there's a whole structure, sci-fi structure, and people in spacesuits walking underwater. So these ideas are thought out by the director and the story writers, and we as concept artists have to visualize that and create our own ideas to sort of illustrate everything and show it to the art directors and to the directors, so they can take it ahead and you know, work it out and create exactly what we do in the movies. So our work is basically to inspire the director and the art directors and the rest of the team, like the modelers, the texture artists, and everybody else in the production, so that they can create what we imagine, basically. Concept art basically consists of things like storyboarding. I think most of you know what storyboarding is, but I'll just keep describing everything. So that's so storyboarding is basically very rough sketches of little stories and how your movie would probably have these scenes, and probably this would take place or that would take place, and very rough line drawings of stuff. Keyframes are, on the other hand, a bit more realistic, and they show this whole exact scene, say this image that you see right now, where we see a shot of some creature or a shark, right? We see the silhouette of a shark just swimming around in the water. So that's sort of like, maybe that could be a moment in the movie. And then there's pitch illustration. Pitch illustrations are way early in production, when producers, directors, they have this idea and they just want to sort of explore it, right? And we have to sort of design the look, so say 2-3 images of the movie, some scenes, and then just show it to people so that you can get an approval that, all right, this project has to continue. Then there's a lot of character design, which consists of costume design. Then there is creature design, environments, there's props and vehicles, and there's set design. So all of this is a part of concept art, where you need to basically understand how the movie industry functions. I'm not talking about Bollywood right now. Right now, I'm simply talking about Hollywood, because in Bollywood, people don't spend so much money basically to do concept art and all of that stuff, or even in visual effects, as you all might have seen Bahubali. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about production. So once all the ideas are set, right, you have this prop or this weapon that's designed, and everything has been mapped out by the artists or by everybody. Then that's sent to the production department, and then the actors are casted. Then the set locations are casted. Say if it's a desert scene, then you'll probably choose some place in Africa or North India or something like that to shoot your movie. And so another thing I just recalled, when where we as concept artists come in is also to cut a lot of costs in production, because when we visualize exactly what this world is going to look like, the team knows that this is the shot they want to shoot. So they exactly know what location to choose, and they know which kind of a place would have this. And it costs like thousands and thousands of dollars to take equipment from one place to another. And so basically, once the video production is on, then the scenes are shot, and those green screens behind the actors are all, the scenes are shot in that. And then it's sent to visual effects companies. After sending it to a couple of visual effects companies here and there, then those guys, what they do is they replace those green screens with like huge ass backgrounds and a lot of effects and a lot of that stuff to make everything look cool. So then there's a lot of stuff, like now you can't, like, say Doctor Strange, right? You have Benedict Cumberbatch. You cannot make Benedict Cumberbatch fly around in a suit practically. So of course there's the whole 3D model that's created in the on the computer, exactly mimicking him and every character in Avengers and stuff like that. And those guys are sort of animated, they're rigged, they add a lot of magic and all of that stuff to them. So that's a part of the production too, 3D modeling. Then there's rigging, there's animation, texturing, shading, and lighting. There's a lot of different intricate details and a lot of different fields in this that you can get into. Say if you're more technical, you would probably be a rigger, and you would want to work on how to rig a character and stuff. Or if you're interested in animating somebody, you start noticing how people move or how animals or creatures move, and tomorrow you might be a animator rigging some awesome facial features or movements of a character. Or texturing, you notice materials in your surrounding environment, materials of wood, metal, and how reflections and a lot of scratches and all of that stuff occur on metal, some random details in general. So you start applying that to your work. And it's quite interesting in general to research about it and to know what exactly you want to get into. Say, I was good at drawing, so I wanted to get into something that's good with drawing. But if I would think of getting into something like FX, or rigging, which has a lot of coding into it, oh man, that would be insane for me. So very subjective to what someone likes exactly. And then let's move on to post-production. After the movie is shot and it's sent to visual effects studios around, those guys they start animating characters here and there. They start adding some really cool lasers and sparks and smokes and explosions and all of that stuff. And everything is combined by a compositor and sent as a final movie to all the box offices and the theaters around. So now, what the hell is concept art? Good question. The job of a concept artist comes when, as I explained, the director or the story writers, they come up with the script or a story, right? And you as a concept artist have to visualize everything, and you have to think of new ways and and basically solve problems. It's not about creating pretty pictures, I would say. It's more about solving the problems, right, with the right direction and the right way. Um, and that's when a concept artist comes in and designs these, they say, an environment, or if you have been told that, okay, there's going to be this swamp where we need a cool looking vehicle, sort of like spaceship, but it should be running on water. So you would do your research, and you would, of course, like study what kind of vehicles go in a swamp or how they move and stuff like that. So you have to do your share of research, and then there's a lot of different tools that concept artists use, like be it sketching, be it painting, be it drawing, or 3D modeling, texturing. You have to know everything these days, and to create a final image like that. All it takes is 2 seconds, which is true. So there's a general human idea, I would say, that when we walk around, like when we look at the world around us, we've already seen landscapes, we've already seen like cities and buildings and cityscapes or animals and stuff like that, right? But when you're designing stuff or you're drawing things around, right, you need to make sure that your image reads perfectly and is visually appealing to the eye for someone who's seeing it, especially if your work is going to be seen by thousands and thousands of people all around you for movies. So especially when you're showing it to anybody in general, and if there's some issue with your artwork, say that the perspective is off, or say the colors are not really exactly matching each other according to the lighting scenario, then people would know that there's something wrong with this piece, but they wouldn't exactly be able to map out or tell you that, okay, maybe this is the problem. But then they know subconsciously, it's all fit in everybody's head that this is how a cityscape looks, or this is how everything looks. So you have to keep a lot of basics and basic tools in mind when you are designing for concept art. And it takes 2 seconds, the first 2 seconds of anybody looking at your image. If they don't say wow, or if they don't be like, okay, damn, that looks good, then you failed as a concept artist. or maybe they have too much ego, but it's all right. Now, how the hell do you get into this field or this industry? Do you study for IIT? Do you study for NIT or some MIT or school and stuff like that? No. This is one good thing about this field, that you don't necessarily need to be in one of the best schools to study this. You can sit at home and give yourself some time and just self-learn everything, because we have online resources nowadays. We have a bunch of artists from, say, Star Wars or Lucasfilm, and all of these guys are, they have these tutorials. You can keep researching your stuff online and just take your time to learn. Because there's this idea that everybody has in India, where we need to be through one of the best colleges to succeed in life, or to, सबका एक नाम होता है जो कमाना पड़ता है, वो डिग्री से होता है, लगता है सबको. But that's not the case in reality, especially with this industry. It doesn't matter where you're from, and it doesn't matter what you are doing or what field you're from. Say you're from biology and you want to get into this, you can do that. But all you need to do is you need to have some amazing looking artwork, of course. You need to have your basics clear. You need to do your research. You need to know exactly where you want to be in the next, say, couple of years, and then you have to work for that, right? So that's overall a general feedback about schools and colleges. So for me, I was selected in NIT Bangalore, and I gave the interview over there. But to be honest, when I went there, I spoke to a couple of students. I saw their structure and all of the structure for game design, and it was not really related to what I was doing. And even after showing everybody my work, at that time it was still okay. But they don't exactly know how the industry functions or how you should get into this, because even the students were a bit confused. They didn't know whether I should learn some sculpting software or 3D software, or should I learn some game engines. They have no clue. So in this, you sort of have to figure out a way on your own, talk to people around and talk to everybody around you, do your research and study everything out. And I feel like that's the best way to learn, self-learning. Now let's move on to breaking out of the system. So ever since we've all been brought up in schools like say ICSC or SSC or CBSE schools over here in India, um, we have this, or even humans in general, we have this thing of keeping everything organized, or everybody tells us tie your shoelaces or tie your, or wear your clothes properly, comb your hair, and just do your stuff in order. That's what everybody says, right? Um, once when you are in raised through that mentality over the years, right, you sort of have to learn to break out of that right now when you're trying to get into this field, uh, because that social pressure will sort of impact you a lot and probably give you a lot of anxiety and all of that stuff too. So you need to, like, of course, have people around you supporting you, and uh, surround yourself with positive people who can really see that, okay, you want to do this, you should do this. But yeah, so a couple of points. You don't have to be like Sharma ji ka beta, as we all have heard that thing. Don't waste your time doing something you hate. Please don't. I went through 4 years of engineering. I wouldn't call it a waste of time, but still, if I would have done product design or industrial design, probably my perspective and all of that would be super amazing right now. So be clear about what you want to do exactly. Be prepared, because this is really not a easy industry to succeed in, because that's the reason is because you have a competition with everybody around the world, not just here, and places like Spain and Europe and America, where this field is already pre-existing, and here very few people know about it. So you have to be prepared to compete with everyone on a global basis. Apart from that, do not depend on colleges, uh, be it whatever college you're into. Say you're in some part of the world in some school, right? Of course, you need to learn from the right people and what you want to do. Say you want to get into illustrative or more stylized, and you want to get into Pixar or Disney stuff. That kind of art is a bit different from what I do, which is for more realistic and film stuff. So you need to find the right kind of artists that you like. You need to really sit and do your research on that and try to get to learn from them, because they have a bunch of mentorships and they have a bunch of stuff online where you can learn from. So do not depend on schools or colleges. Learn on your own and structure your studies on a daily basis. Be it, say, if I want to practice circles, right, I'll do it every morning until I feel like I'm perfect at it. And then I want to practice forms or cubes and all of that stuff. It matters. It sort of matters, and you need to do those practices on a daily basis so that you can learn faster. Fundamentals are key. Yes, no matter how many softwares you learn to create the best stuff that you can, if your basics are not clear, and I'll touch up on those basics later on a little bit for you. So if those basics are not clear, then you will, even after knowing every software or every 3D tool, you will probably not get the best final image or best product, because your basics are just off. So I would suggest that everybody should, especially if you're starting out, just make your fundamentals clear and learn your sketching or your drawing, be it painting, be it understanding color, composition, and start slowly. Do your research, of course. And another very important point I wanted to mention was talk to people. You should network, you should attend conferences, and you should try to go beyond your comfort zone, even if you're an introvert, just to understand the industry better. Talk to people. Because say if you're on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is the best way to communicate and answer your and ask your questions to anybody working in the field. Like, say if somebody working on Avengers and you want to talk to that guy on LinkedIn, sometimes those guys just reply to you like that, and they want to they want to help you out. And that's how initially I started out. I would just text a bunch of people on LinkedIn, say 10, 15 people. Even if one person would reply, they would give me some really positive feedback, or at least a guidance on where I want to go. Right? So do that. Now let's get to the next point. Understanding the IES. I'm not talking about any IAS exams and stuff, but This is the Indian education system. We have a bunch of issues with our Indian education system, which you need to understand. And one of them being that we don't have a practical approach towards stuff. We are very technical with what we do. And वो बोलते हैं ना कि रट्टा मारने में बहुत सही होते हैं हम लोग. But we're not exactly trained to do our research on our own and practically solve problems, which is what I faced an issue with while I was trying to get into this, because I was with the mentality of getting spoon-fed by everybody around me, or be it my teachers or anybody. So it's very important for you to understand that your mind has been trained in such a way that you have been spoon-fed with knowledge for some of you, maybe not all of you. And you want to try to break out of that and sort of start doing your research on your own and learning on your own, right? So I would highly recommend just keeping that in mind before anything. Now let's talk about the process of how we do concept art for films. So concept art for films basically is a step-by-step process which involves a bunch of people and a huge production team into it. Say 1,000, 2,000 people just working in the studio, and then there's more people who are working outside. So the first step before starting any project for concept art is you get a narrative or a brief, or you get like an idea or a script from the director. And that script has to be developed over time and made into like a final image for concept art. That goes through a bunch of steps like ideation or sketching. Then there's tools like 3D or virtual reality or sculpting, 3D modeling, sculpting. So then there's that, and then you design everything out and you create your shots and then present it to the directors, get some feedback. Your work is either good or it's horrible, and you have to change things according to everyone's feedback. So this is one project that I did recently. It's called Swamp. You saw a bunch of artworks of that recently. So Swamp was basically so I'm just trying to explain you the way we get into this zone before we start sketching anything, or before we even start diving into 3D. So I did a bunch of research on my project. Things like there are swamps in Louisiana, and there are a bunch of swamps here and there. So I was trying to research on what kind of trees exist over there and what kind of wildlife exists, be it crocodiles or be it say some holiday homes in a swamp or something like that, But yeah, and the vehicles that run on it, the kind of colors or the mood that brings out. I also study, if you see the top left, I studied some boats and some Blade Runner vehicles and stuff, just to get an idea of what kind of a vehicle I want to create for this project. And on the bottom left, you see some film grabs. Film grabs are basically shots or moments from a movie. And movie scenes are the best way to try to study or match your projects. Okay, so when you're looking at movie scenes, right, or some film grabs of movies, that shot of the movie has, say, a bunch of like 20-25 people to just design that shot, be it the director of photography or the director of the movie, and everybody around you, that there's some fake fog around you, there's lighting introduced artificially to get that perfect look or the feeling of that shot. So it's very important to study movies especially if you're trying to create realistic stuff. For games, this can be ignored a little bit. And then after doing my research, I dived into sketching, just like 2D sketches, just laying down my ideas and trying to make some shots, because I wanted to look at how my final frame would look. This doesn't have to be perfect. This stage does not have to be really, at the point or perfect, because it's just for your own idea that you want to create. Because 2D and sketching is the fastest way to plot out an idea, right? And modeling and stuff is really technical. So you got to learn to be technical as well as creative. And you want to but try to be less technical with your process. So so I start my process with some research, then I dive into sketching, and I design my shots like, okay, so I wanted this kind of an airport, or I wanted this guy to turn into a zombie who sort of like gets bitten by the crocodiles and controls them eventually, or and there are some dead people in the lake, there's some moss, there's some weird looking crocodiles and stuff. So I just designed that out a little bit through sketching, and then I dived into 3D, as you can see. This is more technical stuff, so you would probably have to study some 3D softwares, and I would highly recommend everybody to learn Blender, because that's sort of becoming the industry norm right now. A lot of you might be knowing in architecture that Maya or other softwares are quite known, but you want to try to get a hold of a software which is concept art friendly, which is a bit more creative. So I would highly recommend Blender for that. And so I modeled everything out in Blender. Some of them are just 3D models that I picked up online, and then I stretched or squashed them so that they can look exactly like those trees that I wanted them to look in a swamp. And then I designed the airboat in 3D as well. That character dude is some guy that I found online. Then we have to texture them. I textured them according to what the look that I wanted for them for the shot, and I wanted to give oak and cypress tree sort of a look to these trees, so I had to resculpt everything. I worked a little bit with particle effects in the project to make that whole swamp moss thing that you see, and some leaves and some vegetation and stuff. And of course you need to have a good computer for this, of course, maybe like a gaming computer or something like that, because it's quite 3D heavy stuff and uses a lot of your graphics and Intel. This is just the prop that I designed. As you can see, I just mapped out a really rough sketch on paper and tried to get an overall silhouette of how it might look eventually. And then I started building things out in 3D, because then everything gets easy, right? You know exactly what you want already out there on paper. And it takes like what, 10, 20 seconds to just try to ideate something. And then you can take your time. Say I took like maybe half an hour to research and create this boat. And then some creature design. I sculpted this out in Blender as well. And then I started designing my shots. I started designing the shots and started combining everything here and there so that I can tell a story through my artwork. And so I started putting the trees here and there. I started putting the whole ground texture as a swamp. I laid some trees like destroyed around here and there. And after just putting my shots and laying out everything, I took a screen grab of it and basically painted over in Photoshop. So because 3D renders are like really stiff, and when you look at 3D renders, they don't look exactly very dynamic or very I would say fluidic, and they end up looking really stiff. So you have to sort of paint over and add some details like this stuff falling down over here, and maybe these reshape the leaves and stuff, because in the end this is just going to be an image shown to the people in the production team. So the image quality is what matters. It doesn't matter whether you've got the perfect render, or it doesn't matter whether there's one brush stroke that's a bit off. So it's all right. Another shot that I designed, I wanted this to look really creepy and really like a whole swarm of crocodiles are just running through. And they have these red eyes because they're probably controlled by somebody, or they're zombies or some scary creatures. So the whole mood, if you can see the kind of feeling that you get from this shot compared to this one is really, it's very different from each other. The reason for that is because in this shot you have very bright colors and vibrant colors around here, but as compared to this shot where you have sort of like desaturated, dull and dark colors, and you have some triangular shapes, and triangular shapes are supposed to be, I don't know if Ajinkya sir taught you, but triangular shapes are supposed to be a bit more threatening or a bit more, yeah, stuff like that. So all of those basics really matter when you try to design your shots. And so you see a dark shot over here of a bit more creepy and scary. So that's the kind of mood that I wanted to achieve with that piece. And here I just wanted to achieve like an establishing shot. um, yeah, similarly with this one, it's quite self-explanatory, I think, with the crocs just approaching a boat. Probably they'll just kill everybody and people will die. And I think, yeah, this whole project it sort of won the rookies draft selection, so quick credits for that. Another scene that I designed recently, which was like a mosque sort of a project. And this was another one, Waterworld. Those were some assets. And then the process remains the same, like the process is still the same. I design the assets, I texture them. Before that, I do a lot of sketching for getting my ideas. And then I design my shots. And then I go into Photoshop and start painting over. Similarly for Waterworld, these are my assets that I designed. I designed some little baskets, a very post-apocalyptic world where I have like a Thai or Indonesian architecture. I did a lot of research on the kind of architecture that I would want. And speaking of architecture, a lot of architecture students get into concept art because what happens in concept art is that you do apply a lot of 3D modeling and all of that stuff, but you completely ignore all of the mathematical and all the stuff where you have to basically do a lot of thinking. So it's completely creative thinking and trying to get a 3D render or a final image that looks cool, but it doesn't have to be a perfect model. It doesn't have to be engineered or structured or well thought out, So after a while of getting frustrated with architecture, people get into this. I'm not saying that you do that, just an idea. So these were some shots I designed for Waterworld. And quick credits to Jama Jurabaev. He is like my sensei, mentor, whatever you want to call it. And he works for Lucasfilm and ILM. A couple of movies he's worked on was Fantastic Beasts. There's Aladdin, the one that came out recently. Then there's Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. He designed all the dinosaurs for them. And yeah, quick credits to this guy. He's awesome. He has amazing tutorials online. You guys can learn from him. And story was sort of similar. He was from but he was from a country where there was no art or no industry, and he was an engineer before. But then a film studio in London called him to work for them because his work was really good. So like you have a lot of good examples in front of you where you don't need to necessarily have a good degree in this. If you can, it's good. If you can go through that art degree or fine art degree, it's nice. But if you don't, it's not a bad. It doesn't matter. ArtStation. So ArtStation is a good platform to show all of your work and basically showcase your portfolio and artwork. So basically on ArtStation, you have all these studios, you have everybody around the world, all the artists around the world checking out your stuff. So I would definitely recommend checking ArtStation out. And the artwork that you see in the front page of ArtStation, that's the quality that you have to achieve in the long run. And that should sort of like be the goal. Now let's talk a little bit about gaming versus film. So in film, right? In film concept art, that's sort of like my focus. So I do a lot of work that is related to film, but it can also be applied to games. So in games, right? Whenever a game project is started by a studio, then you have say 3 years of time before that game even gets released, or you have a lot of time to work on things. And but that's not the case with film, because a film has to be created and released in say 6 months or maybe a year. So it's a really fast process. So you have very little time to work on projects in film, and they need like the highest quality of realism in very little time. But in game, they don't necessarily need the best quality. It depends from every game to game. Say if you have something like Rayman, then you would need like a stylized sort of characters and stylized stuff and creatures. But if say it's a game like Uncharted, then you would need to of course design it like it's a film. quite realistic stuff. But you have ample amount of time because everything in game is created from scratch, be it the environments, the characters, and the game design in general, the coding, the scripting. Everything takes so much time. But in film, that's not the case because you have your actors casted for some time, you have your video production done immediately. Before that, you need everything sorted out really quick. So it's all a 6 month to 8 month process. Another thing is that whenever you're playing a game, a video game, right? You run around with the character for say 20 plus hours, and for those 20 hours, you're just looking at the character and you're looking at swords or weapons that he's using or everything that he has or the world around you. So everything needs to be designed really perfectly and really precisely. And there has to be, like, say, 10 different, 20 different color versions of those weapons or those environments. But that's not the case with film, because when you watch a movie, right, that prop, say, for example, if you have seen Spider-Man Homecoming, the prop that Shocker, that character Shocker has, he has like a laser or zapping thing in his arm. So it's visible only for a couple of seconds in a camera. So it doesn't have to be perfectly designed, but it just has to give the idea and has to serve the purpose of the story. So that's one difference between the games and film. And I mean, you can get into whatever industry that you like. Games is typically easier to get into because studios always want people hired, and it's more like a stable government job jo hota hai apna. So that's game concept art for you. But film is more like once you're done with the project, then you move on to the next one, or maybe the studio doesn't like you, so they throw you out. And it's really about that 2 seconds of impression that you put initially with your artwork. And if that is good, then you're sorted out. Then you can freelance from home. So what really matters when you're working as a concept artist? The software is nope. As I already told you guys, the fundamental basics like sketching, there's storytelling, there's composition, there's color, the mood that the color generates, the kind of feeling you want to evoke in somebody looking at your piece, or the lighting that you have. Cinematography stuff, say a different camera angle would be like would be showing a very different story for a shot compared to another, say you have like a low camera angle and you're looking at somebody's face from the bottom. They give you that shot gives you a really sort of like a feel where you are being overpowered by the character in front of you, and compared to a high angle shot where the character that you see is being overpowered. So those basics of cinematography and camera angles are really important for film. It can be ignored for games a little bit, but yeah. And of course, 3D tools. You need to learn some technical 3D stuff and take your time to do that, because today in film, everybody uses 3D. Before they wouldn't, but it's like the fastest way to do it. Say somebody wants to paint a whole environment and create from scratch, be it drawing those perspective lines and setting the lighting and making those buildings perfect. It just never works, right? Because you can just take a 3D software, put out a few cubes, and then you're done. Your perspective is sorted out. So all those stuff can be ignored with 3D. That's why, like, people, concept artists who know 3D, they generally end up finishing projects in, like, say 3 days or 2 days and stuff, with very high quality stuff. But that is not achieved by normal digital painters. All right. So another thing, you should be knowing that you should, like, just be aware of the fact that things take time. Don't expect yourself to simply succeed in a go. These days we have a lot of instant gratification, and we're used to using apps and stuff which get food right to our doorstep, and it's sort of being engraved in our mind that if we get into this, we have to succeed in this much time or else we're done. No, don't think like that. You should take your time, and you should know that it will take time for you to learn the basics. It will take time for you to learn 3D and a lot of the tools, and a lot of people in the industry, even the people and networking that you have, it matters. So just keep that in mind and do not over expect out of yourself. Don't be too harsh on yourself, basically. And the perks of being in this industry. So of course, there's fame and recognition. There's your credits in movies. Of course, you will have a big name for working on those projects, and you keep getting more projects as and when you keep going through the process. And simply being a part of something that the whole world is watching, it feels good. It sort of feels good, to get to like look at a movie and be like, damn, dude, like that's the part I worked on, or that's the creature I created. It's right there. So that's always there. And another thing is that I wanted to emphasize is endless growth. So with this industry and with art, right, in general, you have so much to learn and you have so much potential for growth that even though you're old enough or way older than everybody, you've not drawn every single thing out there. You've not, and there's always probably something about this world that you have to learn. Be it you have to study a bunch of Nat Geo documentaries to study stuff. You have to probably on another project study factories, or you have to study how a skeleton of a fish would look like, and you have to keep drawing all of those. And that's the interesting part, where you have to do your research on all of the stuff around you or the world around you to create a final project that looks appealing. So I feel like that's one really good thing about this industry. Another thing is that studios do hire you, whether those studios are from America or from London or wherever they are, but they hire you regardless of what your degree is. And they hire you as long as your work speaks for itself. And of course, you should be a good person too. So yeah, basically just work on your stuff. And after a while of just working on things, start comparing it with people who are already out there on top and who are already working in the industry, and look at their stuff. Does it line up? No. Rework, keep working on more projects. And that's how you get there. That's how you self-learn. That's how you sort of work on your own stuff and start getting a little bit better than yesterday. It takes some time, but then I'm pretty sure you guys can do it. Some quick credits, these companies that you might not be knowing about. So Technicolor, ILM, Framestore, MPC, Double Negative, Luma Pictures, ScienceSet. These are some film companies that are around the world, some really good ones that at least I could come off with right off the bat. There are a bunch of more film companies. And then there are some game companies like Ubisoft, Rockstar, EA Sports, Activision, Sony, and Epic Games. And from these, Technicolor and Framestore are already in India. MPC and Double Negative are also in India. There are a bunch. We in India, we're lucky to have these companies here because we can already get into them and start working in them. And we can choose the field that I want. But for concept art specifically, this is something that is directly worked on at the main head offices, because say Framestore has their head office in London, right? They work on the concept art over there in London itself, because they need to be supervised by the directors of the movie, say like Steven Spielberg or somebody is working on a movie. They need to you need to be reporting to them directly with your artwork. And so it's a bit tough to get into this, especially, but it's doable. It's not impossible. I'm pretty sure of that. Gaming studios, there's Ubisoft in Pune, there's Rockstar Games in Bangalore, EA Sports, I think it's in Hyderabad, and I don't think Sony or Activision are here yet, or Epic Games are here yet, but there are a bunch of more gaming studios in India. Compared to the kind of revenue they generate, the gaming industry generates much more revenue than the film industry. And they do have a bunch of more jobs in gaming industry. But what happens as a concept artist, right? When you're working in games, say you worked on the upcoming amazing Spider-Man game, right? You worked on the game today, but you cannot show your artwork to anybody because you have an NDA signed with the company. So you can only show the artwork to everybody around you as a portfolio piece after 3 years or something, because that game is not yet released. It has to go through a bunch of phases like modeling and game design and scripting and a lot of the stuff. So in games, you have that one problem where as a concept artist, it's not easy for you to get your work out to people. I met a few people at Lightbox in LA from Warner Brother Games. They showed me some stuff that they were working on for the Batman and the Arkham Knights game, I think. And but the work was awesome, but they cannot show it to anybody for at least the next 3 years. And yeah, that's one downfall with gaming, but it's all right. I think it's different. It's a different opinion for different people. Apart from that, I think I'll end my talk here. It was as short as I could keep it. And I believe in everybody, and I believe in all of you, that all of you can do it as long as you keep steady mindset for it. And I wish you guys all the best for this. And I'm open to any kind of questions you want to ask, be it the stupidest of questions that you might think of. You can put them down in the chat, and maybe sir can read it for me, and I can answer all of them out. So yeah, guys, good luck with your careers, and I'm super excited to see what you guys come up with.
Great talk. Great talk. We'll shift to Zoom now because of that your stream is not really working.
Right.
It was mic issue.
Right. All right,
So
perfect.
we'll
I'll
shift to
see
Zoom now.
you on Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Am I audible
Yep.
in the chats?
Yes.
Is Shubham there as well?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm right here.
Okay. Chalo. Do we have any questions to Shubham? I mean, I have some questions, but we'll take it up.
Mhm.
Okay. You, Maitreya has a question. काय? घे ना तर. Chalo. I have some questions for Shubham might as well. So I'll just ask जो मुझे questions हैं. So क्या architecture के बाद concept art में jump हो सकता है?
Very much, yes. 100% you can. So I can hear my own voice again. Just a second. Yeah. So I met a bunch of people in my industry who jumped from architecture into this, and it's way easier when you jump from architecture because you have some experience with 3D, you have some experience about perspective and your basic cityscapes and building all of the stuff around. So it's way easier to do that. But keeping in mind, you need to also know how to paint and how to ideate and concept, because in architecture it's like you're given a project which is already in mind, and you have to basically design everything and structurally make sure everything makes sense and also looks cool. Here it doesn't have to make sense, it just has to look cool.
Okay, that's way out of that's okay. Another question that I have is how important is sketching in general arts? I mean, in architecture or design or in concept art particularly.
How important is sketching? Sketching is, I think, the most basic skill that anybody should have before entering concept art or even animation or even other fields like say, rigging or something like that. But even the animation guys, they know how to sketch, and they know how those gestures of those characters look or they move. So I feel like sketching is one of the most important skill to have if you're in any kind of field in this industry, not just concept art.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, for concept art, there's a lot of other. You don't need to be like the best sketching guy in the world or something like that. You just need to know how to sketch and ideate what's in your mind and put it down on paper or in Photoshop so that you can show it to people around. And then you can work on that using 3D and stuff like that to get some really quality results.
Okay, great. What else?
Anybody
How
has
much?
any,
Yes, please.
about software and how and when is the time to learn them? About software, I would really recommend you guys to learn Blender, because Blender is a software which has everything built inside it, be it 3D modeling, be it texturing, lighting, rendering, everything is in the software. So if anyone tells you, like tomorrow you might go to some class and those guys will say, oh, you got to do Maya or you got to do something like 3ds Max. I do not recommend that, because Blender is sort of like a software made for concept artists. And another thing is that it's free. You don't have to pay anything for it. So if you're working on, say, freelance projects, and you don't need to add costs for a software because you're not paying monthly for a subscription of Autodesk or Adobe or something like that, you know.
Okay.
So about software, another thing is Photoshop, and there's a lot of, you can check out my art station. It has a bunch of softwares laid down over there. Those stuff agree with me, but in the end, it doesn't matter. You have to learn software at some point, but once you get your basics right, then simultaneously you can keep getting a little bit technical, and you can start slowly learning softwares. But just get your fundamental concepts of composition and color and sketching skills. Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Um, I there is any more questions we have for Shubham? In the last, we have a. I want him to show that sketch if you have that Spider-Man sketch. Did you find it?
I could not find the Spider-Man sketch, but I assure you guys, it was so horrible. You would want to vomit.
Okay. All right. I don't think we have any questions.
From architecture. Um, so in architecture, you have to design interiors and exteriors, right? In concept art, you have to design worlds. You don't just have to. You have to do interiors and architecture and exterior stuff too, but you need to sort of know how to make landscapes as well. You need to sort of know how to make them appear realistic, and visually it should look good. It should be like a visual treat. Your end goal should be that, be it through painting or whatever it is. So I think it's very different from architecture in general, but in concept art you have to study architecture. Say I'm designing like an ancient temple which is just broken down and in ruins around everywhere around. I don't think something like that is supposed to be designed in architecture, because they make buildings and stuff which have to be constructed. But here you have to know how to design these temples and these ancient ruins and all of that stuff. You have to study them. You have to say, check out Angkor Wat and all of those cool temples and stuff. So you have to do your research and then be able to create that in 3D or 2D. And that's sort of like the main difference between concept art, in a way that it's a concept that you're creating. It's not going to be used by anyone else later on, say as a 3D model also or anything else. It's just an image that you have to create, which has to look amazing in whatever way you can. Do these studios provide you computers or gaming stuff? Of course. I mean, you get a lot of benefits from Ubisoft. If you're working for Ubisoft, say you get their subscription, you get to play those games for free. You get your own computers in the studio to work on your own like huge ass Wacom tablets and all of that stuff. So of course you get everything by the studio, but you get that provided you have a very good portfolio and get hired by them. And no degree is going to get you that, not even an ID. The future in India, why DSK failed as they were in gaming. The future of visual effects in India is, I would say, it's grown in the last 5 to 6 years, because these studios have come from everywhere around and they've come to India to work. And there's a lot of potential, of course, that they see in Indians. But you need to know your place in the industry. You need to know whether you're a modeler or whether you're a texture artist or a concept artist. And you need to start working according to that, and basically start taking everything seriously. Why DSK failed is because of their own internal issues with the main company. So they lost funding, I think, something like that happened. So they had to shut their school down. But there are a lot of other options apart from DSK as well if you're looking for schools. But I would highly recommend everyone to start learning online and start self-learning.
Okay.
And I don't see any more questions.
There is a question, Shubham, from Sakshi's iPad. According to you, what is the approximate cost of investment to be at any decent level?
Right. Okay. Let me think. So according to an approximate cost of investment, nothing. Literally nothing. I mean, I hope this is not going on the internet, but you have torrents these days, right? So you can download any software that's paid for free, or you can download any kind of tutorial from that. Just do your research, and don't release this part on YouTube.
I'll edit this part.
But that's how we start, right? We're students. And we don't have any money. We barely have money to go out and have Panipuri or something like that. So you need to figure out your Jugada ways of doing things. And apart from that, I feel like, yeah, if you have the opportunity and the funding to to go to a school. It's great, you can do that, but you don't necessarily have to do that to succeed. You can simply stay at home and learn stuff.
There is another question. What's your thought on industry being changed due to COVID-19 crisis? I saw lots of artists lose their job.
Yes. So, due to COVID-19, for concept artists specifically, they didn't get too affected because even before COVID-19, they had a lot of work that they had to do from home. Because we work on multiple projects at the same time, be it freelance projects or stuff like that. So concept artists still have a lot of jobs that are going on, and they can stay in any part of the world and they can work on as long as they have a computer. But apart from that, yes, to cut down costs, studios have lost jobs because people are not going to the theaters to watch movies. They're watching them on Netflix and stuff. And new productions are very difficult to do in this situation because it involves a lot of people and a lot of traveling of people. So and so that's why there's a lot of jobs that are lost. But those jobs that are lost are not very much of the key or most important role in the company. Maybe it's like something like a match move artist or a roto artist or something like that in the VFX field, where they have to do more labor intensive work and less of skilled work. So the ones that are highly skilled at what they do, they still have their jobs, and eventually if you make your name in the industry, you will still have your jobs no matter what the situation is.
Okay. Yeah. Jay. I'm super manga fan. Can build a game which basically super cool with concept art.
Yeah, manga games exist, and they're like that. If that's something you want to do, then go for it. There's another question. So, should we start learning online right from our first year in architecture for portfolios? Yes, please. I would highly recommend, because here we wait till we get done with our degrees, and then we realize, shit, I don't want to do this, and then we start looking for things to do. But don't do that. Don't make that mistake. Start researching on what you might want to work as afterwards, after you're done with your architecture. If you're in architecture, that's amazing. You'll graduate with a degree that probably will get you abroad or someplace, but may not get you the happiest job that you may like. So you can start researching right now. Look at the quality of work people are doing on ArtStation. Start looking for people in studios. Talk to people on LinkedIn, and get hold of some tutorials and stuff, and just start working for your own thing. I used to graphic design during engineering, so I got my internship, like the 6-month internship that engineers do. I got that in graphic design, but my college was okay with it because that was what I was into. Like, so thankfully they were okay with that. But I would highly recommend, yes, start researching, because time is everything. How to convince your parents? I love this question.
That's a question we were discussing. कि आएगा ही आएगा कहीं ना कहीं पे.
So very, very controversial question. It really depends. So my parents were not okay with me when I was getting into graphic design. And I used to try to figure out ways to work at night, or when everybody was asleep, say till 3 or 5 in the morning or something like that before. But over time, what happens is that as a general human mindset, when people start seeing you as you are, they start appreciating you for whatever it is, and they start adjusting if not appreciate. So this is what happened with COVID-19 as well, right? Initially, when it started, everyone was like, "What the hell is going on? Shit!" Everyone was hyped up, and all the news channels like bombarded with this story. And they were also scared to get out. But today, the situation has not changed. They're all still even more affected than before. But people are still roaming around. They've accepted it, right? Because it was here for a long time now. So people have sort of accepted it and are getting out now. So I think, like with parents as well, you don't need to convince people as long as you're passionate about something. And you need to figure out your ways to do things. And once they see that you are getting somewhere with it, be it with your quality of work, with some of your successes, people will support. And stick around people that support you.
Okay, I think इसमें एक बात शुभम, there is also one thing is there. कि a lot of ignorance is there ना. मैं भी I also face this question in architecture के parents बोलते हैं कि उसमें job नहीं है. the thing is they don't know about that कि उसमें है क्या. Once they get to know the part कि what exactly happens and what is the industry, I think they pretty much allow you to do that. It's just that कि तुम्हें सही से research करके वो उनको बताना पड़ेगा.
Yeah, that's true. So it's just that here everybody is unaware of anything apart from CA or IIT or engineering or medical. People don't know anything apart from that. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि engineering से आप निकल के भी आपके पास jobs है. In mechanical engineering, you don't have jobs. I have friends who are doing jobs for like say 10K, 15K a year, and they're getting paid shit after doing 4 years of engineering, and they're not happy with what they're doing. That's what's important. It doesn't matter how much you get paid, but at the end, you want to do something that you like to do, right? It's not about the money, and probably concept art may not be something that you like to do. It's probably 3D modeling, or probably it's something else about this industry, or maybe another industry, or it could be engineering for you. But it's about trying to figure out what you like to do and consistently trying to research on that and doing that. I think then it works out fine.
Okay. Yeah. Any more questions we have for Shubham, particularly?
Or if you have any stuff in mind, you can, or you don't want to say it here, you can just shoot me on Instagram, and I'll try my best to reply to everybody over there. I think my Instagram profile is shared on Sir's page.
Yeah, right. So Shubham ka, I have shared the R station ka link with you in the chat सबसे पहले. And if not, you can just search for या फिर मैंने जो group है रंग का उसमें I have shared the portfolio or your link be. If you want to connect him with on Instagram, his profile is also there on this poster, which is a post on Instagram. And yeah, I think that should be pretty much it. I think we covered a lot of questions today.
And guys, one last thing: do not get into the race of if anybody tells you that you have to prepare for an IIT or NID or something like that, do not demotivate yourself, or you do not have to get into that race, because this does not happen outside. This only happens here. You have to understand the Indian education system. This just happens here. But outside, it's like you are promoted at every skill level, be it whatever it is, be it sports, be it art, be it say anything that you might be good at, or chess or something like that could be. So so 100% just ignore the social pressure and try to do things on your own and structure your studies. Try to talk to people on LinkedIn or online outside of India. It's very easy to do that, and just get in touch with people. I see another question. Should we start learning the softwares you suggested before going in architecture? You could, yes, 100% you could. But again, like it's quite subjective. Some people might be okay with the software, some people might not be. But if you want to get into concept art and you're clear about that, then I would say just immediately start with the software, start messing around with it, start creating some stuff that people have never seen before, and do what you enjoy. That's it. That's all that matters.
We have another question. Any thoughts on VFX? I want to join some VFX course. Please help. Yes, that's a question.
Visual effects, right? Now, when you
get into VFX, no, pehle? Starting in?
Yeah, I was actually trying to get into VFX. I'm still trying to get into VFX studios only, but for a different kind of a job. So on VFX, I have a very good friend of mine, Abhishek Chaudhary, who will be giving a talk on Sunday.
14.
And he has worked on Oscar-winning movies like 1917, on The Lion King, and a bunch of movies already. He's from Bangalore and he's a great guy. So he should be able to answer your questions on exactly visual effects, what do you want to get into in that. Another thing is that do not believe in everything that people tell you. To look for a VFX course, you will probably look online, or you'll see these ads of Mac or Framebox or Arena Animation and all of these places. And maybe you guys, some of you have already gone there. But the thing with them is that they do not exactly know how the industry is functioning abroad today. And they teach you stuff according to their old times, which was say 10 years, 15 years ago. So you will not be learning things that are current gen or current, according to the current industry. So 100% learn online if you want to learn. maybe download a bunch of tutorials, look at some stuff on YouTube has a lot of introductory stuff about, say, if you want to learn FX or Houdini software, which is particle based stuff where you create simulations of water and smoke and stuff. So you do that, you research on that software. Or maybe you want to do something like motion design, which is cinema 4D. So learn about that online. Just do your research. If you want to join any kind of course, and try to map out what you like, what you don't like, try things out, experiment. Trial and error is the key, I would say. And yeah, that's the way to go.
I think a lot of कई बार लोगों को ये हो जाता है ना कि they like something on the internet and then they think कि this is my life, and but they don't work enough. I have seen a lot of people like that कि हाँ मैं यही करूँगा. They do 2 sketches and they get demotivated and they are like कि नहीं अब नहीं होता मुझसे. So it's basically trying out a lot of stuff. You have to try and experiment a lot, right?
Yeah, you have to sketch a lot. It's a process. It's not like one day you wake up and then you're a it takes at least, I think maybe it would take you say 6 years, for 5 years to learn things, and then to even get the first job.
Right.
But the fact is that you're spending your time learning something that you are agreeing with, and you know where you're headed. So that clarity, even if you're in architecture or product design or interior design, anything like that, but at least you know that you want to get into design, right? There's some clarity about that. And slowly you start learning things. Maybe you like some things, maybe you don't. Like from our childhood time, when we try stuff, right, mathematics or physics, we realize after school that, okay, you hate math, or you like math, or you like physics. So according to that, we choose a field according to what we like. So it's just the same thing. You have to treat it like that. Just keep learning how much ever you can. If you want, if you're interested, you will learn more. If you're not, you won't.
Okay, great. So if we have one last question, and then I think we can wrap the session now. In 1 घंटा. तुम्हारा चाय ठंडा नहीं हो गया?
बहुत ठंडा हो गया.
Okay, all right. Maybe I'll ask one question. What is one piece of advice that you would give yourself when you were 18 years old?
All right, damn. Hang out with the right people. Yeah. I would say, just to my 18-year-old self, I would just say that sort of believe in yourself. Don't get used to what everybody is getting used to with the instant gratification. So just work hard, keep working hard, and one day you would get where you want to be. And I don't know how, or I don't know when, but you will.
Okay, chalo. That was great, Shubham. What we are gonna do now? Yes. Okay. So that was Shubham Lakhotia.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Shubham, for your time, and it was a great presentation. Thank you, all of you. We had around 50 students, 50 people starting में, but then धीरे-धीरे people निकल जाते हैं. So thank you all of you for your time, and this video will be uploaded after due editing, obviously. And thank you for coming. We have another session tomorrow at 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. जिसका details आपको Instagram पे और मेरे WhatsApp के status पे मिल जाएगा. So thank you for coming, and I'll see you in the next session.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy. Bye.
Chalo. Yes.
Thank you, sir.